And now, Tales from the Tape Vault with Roy Hendrickson.
Hello, I'm Roy Hendrickson. Today, we're going to speak with Garry Rindfuss. He's a longtime engineer friend of mine, and we're going to talk about the early days of Power Station here in New York City. Garry, thank you so much for your time.
My pleasure, Roy. Happy to do it, and thank you for asking me.
So when did you begin at Power Station?
I got my job at Power Station in second week of January of 1979.
Wow.
And I thought, well, this is great, I got showed around the place, and it's like, okay, this place is real, I wasn't even a second engineer at that point. I was cleaning up and going to the bank.
That was the same for me.
Same for you?
Yeah.
Yeah, we were just grunts, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I would steal moments in the recording studio whenever I possibly could. They were always looking for me. Where's Garry? He's in Studio B.
So you did a lot of sitting in on sessions?
A lot.
Yeah, I did the same.
Yeah, and it was really amazing. I watched early Chic sessions when they're cutting records like Good Times, when Bruce came in to start The River. But, it was all hands on deck to get the E Street Band set up.
Sure.
And the first song they recorded was Roulette, if you know that song.
Sure.
Because 3 Mile Island had just happened down in Pennsylvania, the nuclear accident.
So were there any favorite sessions that you had? Things that you sort of hold close to you as great memories?
I would say 3 records. First off, the single record, Under Pressure, Queen and David Bowie.
Sure.
That was a really cool record. And, you're working with Freddie Mercury and you're working with David Bowie,
Sure.
It's pretty amazing. I actually helped mix it because we had to mix it on an analog console without automation.
Sure.
So it was one of those all hands on deck things. I listened to that song and I can hear the things that I did on the mix, Next up, probably The River, Springsteen. It was a record I worked on longer, I think, than I worked on any other. And that by longer, I was on that record for 4 months.
Right.
The first 4 months of 1980. And, working with Bruce was great. Bruce is every bit as cool and as nice a guy as you think he is, He's
Right.
He's real, And beyond the fact he's, hugely talented. And he's, at this point,
yeah.
he's legendary. And then I would have to say Marshall Crenshaw's second album, Field Day.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. Great record. Marshall's a great guy. I'm in touch with him on a regular basis still.
Sure.
And, it was that great combination of people, Marshall and Robert and John, his 2 brothers.
Mm-hmm.
First of all, they're really good, really good players. And Marshall, of course, is a genius songwriter.
So what did you find you thought was very unique about Power Station?
One thing about Power Station I think was a little different from other studios sometimes, because we were talking about this before, the control rooms were so ergonomically set up, you could do a date, without a second engineer, unless it was, something colossal. But, you had the console obviously right in front of you. You had the remote for the tape machine right there. And then you had, what we called the R2 rack, which was this rack of equipment. And it was all, you could just reach it. You just reach for it. And the Pultec rack, 24 Pultecs in every room. But then, things start changing. We started, digital tape machines in the early 80s. I think the first digital machine we had was the 3M. Borderline experimental, those machines, especially the 3M,
Yeah.
the 32 track. You always had to have a guy there. Somebody from 3M would just basically babysit the session. And then the Sony, the 3324 and the 3348. The great late lamented 3348, that cost $250,000 when it was new, and now you can buy them on eBay for $3,000. Oh my God. And James Farber and I were talking about this the other day. Just how lucky we were. To have landed at Power Station.
Sure.
A new facility that was going to, in very short order, become one of the biggest recording studios on the planet. And the cavalcade of stars, if you want to put it that way, that came through the place, especially those first few years. It was just remarkable. You could get blasé about it. It's like, who's in B? Oh, the Kinks. Oh, cool. Oh, I mean, oh yeah, and Bruce is coming back next month, and Paul McCartney's doing something up at C. It's like, wow.
Sure. In New Mexico, where I grew up, I already knew about the studio.
Oh, you did?
DJs were talking about it. Yes.
Yeah, and then of course, Bernard Edwards puts that band together and calls it Power Station.
That really blew it up.
It became a household name partly because of that. Some Like It Hot and all that.
Thank you, Garry. I really appreciate you taking the time to talk to us today. It's really been great hearing about some of the early days of Power Station and a lot of the fun that we had.
Sure. Yeah. No, this was great. Thank you for asking me. It's always always fun to drift down memory lane, and think about the olden days.